national security. That's how we view it. So I think it is time for the government to strengthen the laws and the punishment as it relates to vandalism of the telecommunication infrastructure, right? So the question about the steps or measures taken since Hurricane Beryl that we're benefiting from now, and Stephen spoke about it earlier, we are hardening the network, as we term it, right? We have placed over 80 kilometers of fiber, core fiber that carry the core traffic underground, right? To protect the infrastructure from elements such as our natural disasters such as hurricane, specifically for hurricane, and the work and the investment continues. Yeah. So that's how we want to update the member about steps being taken. Minister Phillips asked a question about the mobile sites. What was done since Hurricane Beryl to ensure that the sites are more resilient? We installed 142 additional 142 generators at our mobile sites across the island. It is in the presentation, right? So 142, as it relates to alternative power, we install additional 15 panels, solar powered systems at our cell sites across the island. So those are some of the steps that we're taking, and the investment continues. Okay?
All right. And if anyone else feels compelled, but if not, I see. Do you want to say? Fine.
I just wanted to. I think Mike is probably giving you. We use lots of different technology, but clearly we wouldn't want to discuss it openly in public for obviously. But I wanted to go back to the question for the minister about communication. So every single day we send out a communication to government, to the minister, municipalities. Apologies if you're not on that distribution, we can fix that. So every day we don't just say, well, you're 81%. I say this location is now back online. You know, Bjorn talked about Kilmarnock, but we say this site because people can relate to the community that's related. So that's sent every single day. Without fail, you know, so it spreads around. I also send a million WhatsApps to send the same message as well. So if anybody wants to be part of that isn't, then definitely we can add you that. So if particularly, you know, a member of constituency asks about their specific location, we can give it an indication on that. So no problem at all. But every day it goes to Minister, OUR, all of the municipalities, you know, we send that message out every day, Chair.
Thank you. I see one more response.
Well, just one comment for Minister Michael Phillips. The community that you spoke of is Arkembedi, which is North Manchester, between the community of Troy and wait a bit. We're working on it. Thank you. No?
It's actually between Oxford and Troy, but not up. Yeah. So it's Northwest Manchester. So it is closer to the border of St. Elizabeth.
Yeah, you know the area well, but not as well as the MP. Thank you very much, teams from Flow and Digicel. We can release you now, as we're going to ask the OUR to go to their GPS and then NWC sections. But we really appreciate the time and the extensive presentations you shared both yesterday in writing and in taking the time and patience to address all the questions and concerns of our members. Thank you. We're going to continue now with the OUR, and they will complete their presentation. We will break at 1:30 or before if they don't have as much time, and then we will reconvene at 2:30. The Ministry of Finance is not ready for 2. they signaled that they were unable to come for 2. So we will reconvene at 2:30. That's the plan now. For the third supplementary, sorry. There is no lunch downstairs, unfortunately. So I'm told. So we have to make our own arrangements for lunch. All right. What are those arrangements? They're our own arrangements. Individual. All right, Mr. Hewitt, over to you.
Thanks, Chair. So moving to the electricity sector, and again, you know what facts are, that some 540,000 customers were out of electricity at the end of the storm, of the hurricane. The report we now have is that 158,000 customers are still out of electricity. So there's now 530,000 customers that are being served. The effect of the hurricane was that going into the hurricane, the natural gas unit that supplying natural gas had to go safe harbor. So that was disconnected on the 23rd of October, and it was out for until I think the 31st. To assist JPS in preparation for the hurricane, we approved an advance of $5 million from the disaster fund. JPS reported to us, as we had discussed previously, that they had engaged arrangements with overseas linesmen to come in the event that they were necessary. And indeed, crews from the US and St. Vincent were mobilized. There are a lot of public advisories, which I won't get into the details on. But what is the situation today? I'm told that there is 790 megawatt of capacity available. And the peak is around 400, and the last peak since the hurricane would have been 467 megawatt. The renewables, there's 50 megawatt of capacity available. The 8 River facility was severely damaged and is not available to the system. The report we have is that some 58 of 80 transmission lines were damaged. Approximately 900 defects were identified, and 66% of HV damage concentrated in western parishes. So the destruction to transmission was unprecedented. And then there's the distribution system, again, severely damaged. And the details are there, so I won't repeat them. Now, there's a graph that has shown how the restoration has gone, that you can take a look at. But then JPS outlined to us 2 paths at a couple of weeks after the restoration effort started. Path 1, which would have seen restoration going until into May, and Part 2, where if they were able to mobilize additional resources, they would see restoration going into February. Thankfully, they have found a way to pursue Part 2, and therefore we're expecting that the restoration will be completed in February. There's a disaster fund that essentially is self-insurance that is presided over by the OUR. And going into there would have been claims after Beryl, so the fund would have been somewhat depleted. But going into the hurricane, there was essentially an available 50 million, considering outstanding Beryl claim as well. And up to date,
when you say considering, this is after the Beryl claim.
This
or
is
that 50 million had to cover both?
no, that at considering outstanding claims from burial, netting that out.
Netting
we're
that
talking
out,
about
so you had 50 million.
50 million, that is essentially
US dollars.
Right. We have to date given JPS authorization to take 45 million, essentially. So there is a $5 million that is kept in the fund for prudential reasons. So that is what has happened with the disaster fund. Now, JPS has also given us some commitments in terms of restoration, and we have shared those with you. The current situation, it is claimed, is that St. Catherine and KSA are 99% restored. The eastern parishes are the eastern parishes are on track for restoration by Christmas, and then their targets for St. Anne for 80%, and western parishes, they're still not the kind of hard commitment on those that can allow us to be certain. But with the new facility that they have, we'd expect them to be able. I'm expecting that with track 2, they will be able to give us more firm commitments. And in fact, we have now actually, there is, if you see it, I'll refer you to the report that we provided on the electricity system recovery. On page 12, there is a detailed commitment in terms of parish by parish restoration. And so there are areas in Westmoreland, for example, and that they have committed to
Is that
restore.
what the slide you're referring to that's on the screen?
No, this is not on this. This
Oh,
is,
it's not on the
this
slide
is not on your
presentation.
slides. It's in the detailed report on the electricity sector. That provides you with the commitments that they have given that we certainly intend to hold them to. So that's about it for the electricity sector. And we expect as well that JPS will provide us will now be in a position to give us more details in terms of restoration of specific areas, because we have been pushing them to have those published so that for planning purposes as well. Now, there is clearly there has been a reluctance to do it initially because of the situation and the uncertainty about that. Now that we have got there's greater clarity on resources, it seems to me that the company ought to be in a position to be more definitive in terms of giving broad targets in terms of areas in which restoration will take place and what residents can expect. So we expect that they'll provide that information going forward.
Just complete your presentation to include NWC, and
Okay.
then we'll have out questions at the end.
So then, thanks, Chair. So the NWC reported to us that among the serious issues that they faced was the storm would have been the hurricane, washout and structural failure of key transmission mains and distribution line, flooding and mechanical damage at major treatment facilities and pumping stations, stormwater intrusion, which overwhelmed the sewer network, resulting in sewer collapses, compromised access routes, impeding system recovery, high operational expenditure for emergency response, generators, fuel, and equipment rental. We have provided in the table, as we have from NWC, a kind of comparison between what the situation was on the 4th of November, which we consider for them operating on a normal condition, and what the situation is, or they said it is on the 1st of December. And you will see what has taken place in terms of restoration and rehabilitation. So And again, we also have some details as to the restoration of critical facilities, which has to go on in tandem with JPS's restoration in instances where the NWC does not have alternative power supplies. Now, I want to highlight some regulatory challenges that may impede the progress for NWC's restoration. NWC has estimated the preliminary estimate of damage is essentially $10 billion, right? And that they need to spend $4.65 billion in the first 3 months. So they have gone 2 months already. And another $5.25 billion. They have requested, we have what is called the K factor, which really is a facility that is to deal with leakages primarily and energy efficiency to the NWC. That facility, NW is seeking to tap fund from it. Well, there are two ways it works. There is a charge that is applied to customer bills at the end of for each month, and that charge goes into the K factor fund. NWC has asked that in light of the recovery costs, that we allow them to not put that portion into the K factor fund over a 6-month period, I think it is, so that will help to fund some of the restoration. The K factor has some over $5 billion in it, and Jamaican dollars, J dollars, yes. And NWC has asked for immediate access to $2 billion in that. So that's something that we're looking at, and I think we're disposed to say, because even though it does not fall within the K factor arrangement, the fact is that if you can't supply water, then you cannot collect any money anyway. So
and the use of the K factor is left to the discretion of the OUR?
Yes, the OUR, well, there are rules governing it, and the current rules say what it is to be used for, and to draw down on it, the NWC
but you
needs
can
our
vary that,
authorization.
even though this is not within the rules. You, in other words, no law has to be changed.
No law has to be changed because we constructed the rules. We just need to be.
So it's an administrative.
It is an administrative decision, but we need to demonstrate that it is consistent with the principles, and or that there is great justification for this kind of exception.
So effectively, this is in a sense, the equivalent of the disaster fund that JPS has.
No, not.
But
in this case, they're asking it to be treated almost
like
as
that.
equivalent to the disaster.
Because there's no equivalent disaster.
There's no
recovery
equivalent,
fund
for the NWC. Now, yes.
But how would that affect the drawdown from the existing funds and from future funds? How would that affect projects that are in line for those funding?
Right.
I guess it's a reprioritization.
Right. So you're spot on, Mr. Chairman. That
I'm a former chairman of the Water Commission, so I understand a little about K factor. And
it shows that. First of all, there's the issue of we have to make sure that there is whatever is spent out of the fund, that there is sufficient fund left to meet ongoing requirement, because some borrowing has been done against the K factor. So hence we would not be saying, look, you can tap all of the K factor, because there are obligations that the K factor has that has to be sustained. So that's one consideration. And the second, as the chair said, is that clearly, if you are going to use some of the existing funds to recover from the disaster, you're going to have to do some reprioritization, but including perhaps delays of projects. Yeah. But again, there are all kinds of things that happen with this reconstruction. You may have gains and speeding up of projects as well. So it may not be a zero-sum game at all.
I just push through to the end
The-
of your presentation.
I'm sorry?
Just push through to the end of your
Right.
presentation.
So the only other thing is that, clearly there is still going to be, even if you've tapped the K factor, there's still going to be this gap, which we expect, of course, that the government will take up. Our view has been to the government that clearly NWC, it has to be treated as part of the disaster recovery plan. And therefore, we'd expect the government as shareholder to fill whatever gap there is. I think that I can stop there. I'm sorry? Remember?
Yeah, so we will move now to questions, and as I did previously, use the chairman's prerogative to ask the first two questions. There was a report, your annual report was tabled in Parliament yesterday, Ministry Paper number 46, 2025. And it's relevant to this K factor and the use of the K factor fund. You reported that net revenue water averaged 31.8%. Now I know that we've spent billions on the K factor, from the K factor fund over the last couple of decades, trying to reduce the non-revenue water losses. We know that some of that is inevitable because of processed water and so on, but I had really anticipated that by now the net revenue water would have been higher than this. And just for members' comparison, 26% billed versus 74% classified as non-revenue water for the National Water Commission. But the private providers produce 3.6 million cubic meters and bill 2.8 cubic meters. So they have a much higher level of billable water. So it shows that it is achievable. And having spent billions over 2 decades, because the K factor was there from my time, should this 26% build be accepted? Maybe we should just, really look at how effectively this K factor is achieving what it was intended to achieve when it was instituted. That's one. The second question has to do with the JPS. You, again, with reference to your Ministry Paper 46, in 2024, you comment that unusually for May, so this was before burial, peak demand dropped by 2% to 678 megawatts. And I want to tie this back to what one senior manager at JPS described to me as a death spiral of the transmission and distribution grid, because the best commercial customers, or many of the best commercial customers, were setting up their own cogeneration facilities, gas-fired cogeneration facilities. Many of the best residential customers and smaller commercial customers were moving off the grid to solar, or substantially moving off the grid to solar. So the same overheads, particularly of the new generated plants, now had to be distributed across a smaller base, which means that the cost per kilowatt hour will continue to be very high. So that now impacts affordability at the lower end. So here you are getting squeezed from the top. You're losing your best residential and your best commercial customers who can afford to pursue alternatives, whether renewables or otherwise. And at the bottom, more people cannot afford to formally access JPS. So you're getting a squeeze from a top and the bottom. And so the company that has the transmission and distribution system is really getting the squeeze in the middle, because the generating companies are guaranteed their returns and they only have to plug into the grid, and they don't struggle with the distribution losses, etc. So I would want you to explain, particularly at a time when we're hearing that the government, if it is not repaid the loans, it will just have to step in and take over back the company. Now, will what is left of the JPS, outside of the independent private power producers, of which the major shareholders of JPS are one of those, would we be stepping in to take over a company that's commercially looking at a secular decline in their revenues because of this death spiral that I've described?
Thanks. Thanks, Chair. I'm going to take the first question and I'm going to punt to our Deputy Director General in charge of electricity and water for the second. So just giving him notice on that. So on the first, I think you would have said that in comments in the annual report, I expressed my own disappointment with what has transpired with regard to NWC and the K factor. And I also did point out, however, that the bright light in that, the sign of hope in that is that KSA, the program undertaken in the KSA has reduced non-revenue water to somewhere around 40, in the mid 40s, coming down from 70%, 70-odd%. So that's, we're hoping that that becomes more of a template for what is to be done across the island, including a project that is currently on the way in St. Catherine, including the Portmore area. So yes, there has been the great disappointment that we haven't secured better figures in terms of non-revenue water. The part of the difficulty has been that because it is a network, you fix leaks in one place and it creates pressure in another. So until you get to a kind of, I don't want to use the optimal point in the network, and you get to a point in the network where your fixing leaks don't actually just introduce pressure in other areas, it's going to be difficult to see the overall figure coming down. But I think the NWC is managing now to sectionalize its system better, and to hopefully over the next few years we'll see some gainful reductions in non-revenue water.
So, and how is that non-revenue water divided between leaks and theft? Is there any estimate of that? Leaks, theft, and process water.
There are estimates, but I'm not convinced that they're reliable.
That they're reliable. Okay. JP, the response on.
Yes. Thank you. The question of the utility debt spiral is a fascinating concept, but I'm not too certain if at this stage of the game, if it is applicable to Jamaica. The fall in demand that you referred to last year, it was contrasting what happened before burial and what happened after burial. Before burial, the demand was pretty high, but after burial, it fell because two things. One, there was less demand as a result of the hurricane. And the second thing is we transitioned to cooler months. But the evidence is that there has been growth in the demand or the kilowatt, the energy consumption from JPS actually. In fact, what has happened is that a couple years ago, we at the OUR indicated that we think that electricity would be growing by 1.6%. And JPS insisted that it would be growing by about 0.6%. And what happened is, after what came out post-COVID, they upped their growth, which was higher than ours, in fact. So there is a risk, I would say, but the evidence points to growth in electricity consumption. There are some people coming off the grid. There has been even one instance where one has come back, that I know of, a very large one has come back. But insofar as I'm concerned, we have to pay attention to keeping prices as low as possible. But at the same time, what seemed to be happening is that there has been growth in terms of
what's the average
electricity
growth per
consumption.
annum over the last 10 years or 5 years, whatever? Well, I know you said what were the projected growth and they've exceeded that. But
Over the last 5 years, taking out what happened during COVID, there has been growth since about 2016. In fact, one of the reasons why JPS moved from a price cap to a revenue cap was because they had fears that electricity growth was going south or in the negative direction, so as to secure their income. But what actually happened after that was quite different. Electricity energy consumption has kept on growing. And as I said before, if we exempt the COVID period.
So, I mean, do you have an actual objective figure you could share with us? I hear you that there's been growth. If you say 2016, there was, how much 100 or whatever megawatts, however you measure it, of electricity consumed versus 2024 or 20, if you want to use a more normal year. What would those figures look like?
Well, I couldn't speak to the exact numbers, but we could provide it.
You could provide it. Well,
we could provide it.
Yeah, so the last 10 years, and we'd be able to circle the anomalies for COVID or burial.
Yeah, sure.
I think Mrs. Hornes had signaled. I hope you note how impartial I am.
Oh, really, you're not, but we will do that in housekeeping afterwards. Welcome to Parliament. My first question is really the JPS element of it. The fact that we, through adversity, have had to look at opportunities. Is OUR, is JPS, is the government in any way contemplating nuclear energy as a possible source of significantly reduced energy costs? I'm not sure if you would be able to answer me on that element. And I know you spoke to areas easterly, like my constituency, East Rural, St. Andrew. We still do not have power in the hills. But what concerns me is the information given by JPS, and our membership at last meeting pointed it out, still doesn't give us an idea as to which communities are affected and any schedule of when communities will come back on board. I recall the only beautiful schedule I saw was one that was fake. And then, yes, it was literally somebody who constructed a beautifully crafted fake document.
It was very encouraging. It was a very encouraging picture.
Very discouraging because the dates on it were very big.
Yeah.
So that would help us, and it has gotten deeper for us because my first experience in Beryl, we pushed ahead to clear main roads. Our thinking was the lines run along the main thoroughfare, and that is what would help JPS with restoration. And then they got back to us and said, no, you know, this particular one goes through the bush of here, and that particular one goes through this tiny road that we literally left and said, we're not going to clear there because we need JPS back up. And so we said to them that first time, look, when we have a situation of this nature, there needs to be some sort of coordination with the political representatives so that between NWA, who is in the space, and we are heavily in the space, have a lot of workers, community persons who would be communicating with us. We need to find a more efficient way of knowing where do you need to go and what are the issues you are having and in what way we can help. That is, we're still not there. We would really need OUR to take a look at some sort of long-term approach to when we have emergency situations in the way that JPS has a community group that they've set up with themselves and the parish council, that it goes a little deeper and we have representatives from almost every community who would be able to say what is happening. And it could act as a mechanism in your own audit of the information you're getting, re-flow, re-JPS, re-water, from various communities across different constituencies. Our challenge is particularly deep in Kingston and St. Andrew because you have said 1%. That 1% is with us still hearing. We cannot come to you in some spaces because we don't have any trucks at all. So could someone guide us as to whether there are zero trucks left in Kingston and St. Andrew for JPS? We have offered to help with widening roads. We have offered to help with if the road, no matter what, is just too narrow, we will meet you at a point and then we can help to take the poles from there up. Community persons have offered to help to dig the holes. And our last response, and we do check daily, JPS said to us for the communities of Davids Hill, Halls Delight, Westphalia, they still cannot answer us as to when they will have trucks that will be able to take poles to us, which we think is very unacceptable. For water, Chairman understands the K factor far better than I do, but I am looking at, separate and apart from the savings we have had as a government from projects like that introduced or Portmore, St. Catherine, Kingston, the KSA, which has significantly reduced our non-revenue water. Cost of living continues to be a cry of Jamaicans, and if we can get anything for cheap, we'll happily take it over anything that costs us more. Water is considered to be life, and water residents would love to be able to get so cheap that where we're losing revenues because people are stealing water, they would love to be in a position to even pay flat rates and have the ability to get and feel like I'm a paying customer. Is there any potential significant reduction in costs that we could have at WC using solar pumps as a part of our operation? And now that we have had the experience of Melissa and there are persons offering to donate and to provide grants to us, persons have been saying, look, we are willing to send you solar powered pumps. Is that something that we should push or pursue? And is that something that would renown to a significant benefit in the cost of operations for NWC and potentially far more resilience in us not depending on electricity needing to come back first before we can get water at many of the areas that are rural? Thank you.
Thanks, Member. I'm going to ask DDG Lewis to respond to the issue of considerations about nuclear. And I'm going to, and I'm going to ask DDG Wilson to speak to the. Okay. You want to speak on nuclear as well as on the issue of the restoration of power and also water. I'll probably say something at the end about the details for restoration going forward. Ma'am.
Yes, okay. Thanks for the questions. Regarding nuclear energy, nuclear energy is the concept of small modular nuclear energy is relatively new. There are perhaps about 18 technologies, and the decision as to which ones are the most useful in the context of a small island economy, those things have not been settled as yet. What I should also say is that there's no example of a small island with nuclear energy, and it takes at least 10 years for planning to take place. But some positive things have been happening in Jamaica in the sense that we have been a part, the Ministry of Energy, along with the OER, we have been in discussions about nuclear energy. Consideration is given to including that particular technology in the IRP, the Integrated Resource Plan. So we're thinking about it. Of course, as I said before, we would just be in the pre-planning stage. But for that to happen, it will not happen until 10, 15, 20 years from now. But the planning and the thought process, which is important, has already begun. With regards to what is happening in some areas where there is the restoration all around, there's nothing more painful than to have yourself surrounded by a ring of light and you are in darkness. And so I can understand the discomfort and the unease that people are experiencing in Eastern St. Andrew. But the question of
East Rural. I don't want you to get in the bad books.
East Rural, thank you. But there has been an effort to rechannel a lot of resources out to the west. And this might be a consequence of that. So I think what we need to explore with JPS is how do you deal with the margins that exist in areas that are almost fully electrified as well. So that is something that we'll have to talk to them about. But we understand the pain and the agony of seeing that around us. All right, is there anything, solar pumps? That definitely is a great idea, I think. But of course, with every great idea, there's a dark underbelly. Solar panels of that kind is very vulnerable to theft. And
Solar pumps.
right? So it's something that could be raised. We have heard of the suggestion before. It's something we could talk to NWC about, but the security element is something that would have to be factored into the cost-benefit analysis for that to happen. All right?
I know many fish farmers, for example, use solar pumps currently. So I know solar pumps are in commercial use locally. Of course, it has to be, solar pumps don't have batteries, so they only run during the day. You can do a solar photovoltaic system where you use a regular pump and you have batteries so that it can 24 hours. So I'm sure NWC, if they were here, would be able to tell us, because it may be appropriate for some of the locations, some of the pumping stations. All right.
Yeah, the other thing with solar batteries, as you point out, that it can only run during the day, so it would have to be supplemented by batteries or by storage.
Right, which is what
So-
a lot of the commercial people do, is pump into a reservoir during the day and then continue to flow from the reservoir
Yeah.
during the night. All right, question now to Ms. Burchell, your turn, and then Mr. Hines.
Thank you. I wonder, has the OUR conducted, commissioned, or required an audit of JPS's damage claims for Hurricane Beryl or for Hurricane Melissa? Or are we relying completely on what they've self-reported? So this $350 million bill for Hurricane Melissa, which has been much talked about in terms of the government's contribution to it, is it something we're just taking from JPS and then forcing the government to cough up well-needed resources to help them finance a figure that they've self-reported? Or are you going to find a way to verify that? Again, on JPS, why I'm told by customers that they are still receiving estimated bills when JPS operates a fully digital metering system that can give you hour by hour data on usage. Is it true that JPS is still giving estimated bills, and why would something like that occur? And finally, the communities that have been out of electricity for the duration of Melissa, for example, can we confirm somehow? Is there an auditing system within OUR that can confirm that they have been zero consumption billed for those periods? For me, for example, I haven't even checked a JPS bill because I expect none for the period of Hurricane Melissa. So can customers rely on OUR's support to ensure zero consumption has been billed for those who've been out of electricity for now over a month? Thanks.
Suppose in that case, there shouldn't even be a connection charge. I'm going to invite OUR to respond to those first, and I'll come to your question.
Thank you. So, have we conducted our audit of Beryl? And the answer is that we've not done a formal audit of Beryl. In fact, that's why there is an outstanding amount that we haven't allowed yet, because we're still going through the information that has been submitted to us.
That's the 5
we do
million
not-
that you reserve. You spoke earlier about reserving a 5 million.
No, that's why I said to you that net of Beryl claims.
Okay.
That's right.
So just to clarify then, you would have more than 5 million retained because you have something against the claims that are being audited.
Well, what we have done is indicated that what is it? There's a 9 million, or I think it's 9 million, $10 million, right? That we are going to, we're taking another look at to address whether or not this is something that we are on. And it's just a question of ensuring that what is claimed, because we know, for example, that the company has a capital program that we approve Now, when you have a hurricane, there are things that happen in terms of capital enhancement and all of those things. So we look at those things in order to determine.
To see whether the normal capital program might have
Right.
overlapped or been overtaken by.
So that's the process that we're going through now. So for Beryl. For Melissa, again, we wouldn't be doing an audit now because the restoration is in fact taking place. What we have said to JPS is we have given direction as to how we expect the assessment, and we make a distinction between the engineering assessment that says this is the kind of damage that has been done, and then the cost of actually effecting the restoration. And we have said same way that for insurance purposes you would have assessors going out and so on. So JPS will appoint assessors on the terms of reference that we have approved. And then those reports will come to us. We will look at that, and we have reserved the right to employ specialists to review those. Perhaps what you call a loss adjuster to review that. So that's the process we're going through with regard to the claim or potential claim. Why some customers still receiving estimated bills? I think that was the question. Cheryl, you want to say something about that, or are you? Okay.
I would defer that to my colleague, Ms. Good.
You have to make a request. Thank you. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the question. So, yes, JPS would have 100% smart meter their customers. However, that technology depends also on the telecommunications network. So where those networks are down, it would prevent JPS from getting those meter readings, and that would account for the reason that customers would receive estimated bills. It may not be the only reason, but that may be the main reason, because there may also, in instances where they are not able to get the reading remotely, they would usually send out their meter readers. But of course, in some areas, there would now be access issues. So that would also prevent them from having an actual reading.
Yeah, so it's safe to say that those estimates, because how I understand the estimates from JPS is they would estimate it based on your usage in previous months. So a month like October and parts of November would not be equivalent or near what we would have used in the previous months. On what basis then would they generate these estimates?
Okay, so based on the guaranteed service standards that we have for JPS, we actually included a standard that speaks to how they ought to calculate the estimated consumption, which you have alluded to. They ought to use an average of the previous 3 actual readings under normal circumstances. In the case of Melissa, what they would have done is, based on the discussions that we have had with them, they would have prorated the estimated consumption based on the number of days of loss of service. So, for example, if you were out of service for up to 8 days, because what we also need to bear in mind is the bill that would have been received in November would have taken into consideration most of October's usage, because Melissa hit us on October 28th. So the consumption really would have been the consumption for October. well, for much of October. So if since October 28th, you were without service for up to 8 days, for example, then and they have to estimate your consumption, then they would bill you for say 80% of your previous consumption.
All right, Mr. Hines.
Sorry. Yes, thank you.
Sorry, and the final question, to proceed. And the final.
Right.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah.
Your request
zero
was-
consumption, yeah.
Right, your request was for assurance that if there's zero consumption, that we'd verify that. And yes, the OUR can offer that assurance that we will in fact verify that customers are not charged where there is zero consumption. I know the chairman made reference to the service charge, and we're in discussion because that is not as cut and dried as. So we're in discussion with JPS about that as well. And Ms. DDG Lewis wanted to make an intervention.
Yeah, if I may just go back to the estimated bills. As indicated by Ms. Good, the bills that the customers got is primarily for the October. The OUR has engaged JPS going forward as to how those customers are going to be billed. So, and those customers, the billing cycle hasn't started yet for those who would be out of electricity and then somewhere in between regained electricity. So we are in discussions as to how to really treat that.
Mr. Hines.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon and welcome to Parliament. Just to ask a few questions relating to Melissa and one on Beryl. Let me start with Beryl. Was there any refund ordered by OUR for customers? And did the JPS comply? And I will ask the same for Melissa. Will there be any refund ordered for Melissa going forward? The next question is, what is the actual damage caused to the grid by the Hurricane Melissa? And what is the OUR material role in the assessment and audit processes for Hurricane Melissa? And my final question is, does the OUR have the requisite expertise to assess the figures provided by the JPS?
And just to write on it, we've heard since the hurricane a moving figure of the cost of restoration JPS, which is normal because as time goes on, they'll do a better assessment. What's the current figure we're working with in terms of the cost of restoration? Go ahead.
The current figure is 360 to 390 million.
360?
To 390 million.
360 to 390. Okay, thank you.
That's US dollars.
So who's going to respond to Mr. Hines' questions? Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
In terms of the refund ordered by whether the OUR ordered JPS to give any refunds, whether OUR does not have that authority to order JPS to refund customers in terms of to give them some sort of relief. In fact, after Beryl, prior to Beryl, during COVID, we recognized that there was an issue when we have force majeure events, whether caused by a disaster or a disease, that there may be issues with customers. And so we had commenced a project to look at that and to see what could be done. We examined the developing world and other developing jurisdictions to see how they treated it. But that project has not been completed just yet. So we really don't have the power to direct JPS to say, in the circumstances, they must offer a relief. What, however, we have done is we have encouraged them to offer relief to their customers. And for example, I mean, they have delayed payment, have payment plans, etc. So that's what we have done in those circumstances.
Okay.
Yeah, just to follow up on that. So we've seen instances when we were preparing for the hurricane, the JPS will have come out and said that the expenditure will increase naturally because of the rain events. Are you saying that the government then will have to be the ones who will impose that sort of order on JPS for them to see where it's fit to give some rebate, give some refund to customers, given that they were out of service for a long time and persons would have been asked to pay bills that they didn't really have the services for?
So I don't think that's, well, what we're saying is that we can't ask them to grant a rebate if there is a legitimate bill. If they have overcharged customers, sure, we have the authority to tell them that they have overcharged customers. The question of concessions, I think, are something we have to negotiate in terms of concession to customers because we don't have the authority.
I don't think it was concessions. You're saying specifically those who had received interim bills when they had no service. Do you have the power to insist that they refund or credit, I suppose, those accounts if the OUR has that power?
Yes, if you have an estimated bill when you don't have service, then clearly that's not a legitimate bill and that has to be addressed. So yes, but once a bill is, what I'm saying is once a bill is legitimate, we don't have the authority. If it is not legitimate, we do have that authority. Secondly, I think you raised the issue of do we have the expertise to do this? What is our role in the assessment? Well, the insurance fund actually set out what the roles and responsibilities are, including the fact can engage loss adjusters and all of those things. To the extent that we don't have the expertise, we will always engage it. So and we have conducted a series of assessment. We have had some 9 or 10 hurricanes since our storms, since the EDF. The reviews have all been conducted by the OUR. In instances, the company has appealed our decision. I think one went as far as the Privy Council to be addressed. So yes, we do have the expertise or can engage the expertise.
The answer is yes, either in-house or you will engage it.
Yes.
You will contract that expertise. Were all your questions answered, Ms. Hines? There's one outstanding. Which one is it? And then Mr. Crawford. I did look for it. Mr. Crawford.
Yeah, Mr. President, we'll have delays if they have to remember all the questions and then try to answer and then we'll try to find them back. But
how many out? Break them into 2 or 3 at a time. But remember now, we need to give staff and members a break for lunch before the 2:30. Yes. So
the speaker cannot curtail me today, no, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Yeah. We have to allow and with the greatest respect, not just the staff, of us.
Well, Mr. Chairman, we are delayed this thing by discussing something that we're all in agreement. Right, member, do not disturb me today, member. Chairman, I'd like to ask, I heard in the conversation that there was a large consumer of energy that came off the grid and returned. Can any insight be given as to why that might have been and what happened to their investment
in the alternative? Go ahead.
No, I don't think it is in my power to disclose that.
Okay, all right. No.
It is in your power, but maybe it wouldn't be appropriate. Go
Well,
ahead.
you have the right words.
Okay, all right. The 360 million US to 390 million US suggested for the grid to get back up. Is that from henceforth or is that in total? Meaning, is that 360 million what we need from here, or was that from all the damages from the hurricane ended?
Based on what we have gotten from JPS, and that is in the report, the phase 2, it is the entire thing.
So the 360 to 390 million is the entire cost of getting the grid
The
up.
total.
Right. And that is to get the grid back to what it was, or that includes improvements to the grid?
Restoration, I understand. That
So-
is to restore it to what it was before.
Have the JPS given you any indication of what it may need to improve from the resilience standpoint and also the capacity standpoint? Have they given you any such information?
No, we haven't gotten it in details, but they have indicated that they would want to look at how it could be reinforced to make it more resilient.
All right. And that 360 million is about 57 billion. Are you aware of the terms of the loan that they have taken from the government, the 150 million?
No, we aren't. We were told about it, but we haven't gotten the details. We know ultimately we'll get that information, but we don't have that now.
Okay. Based on that 24 billion that they have received from the government, there's still a shortfall of 23 billion. Have the JPS given you any insight of how they will raise that 23 billion?
No, we haven't heard as yet. We
Is
know
there-
we know that is something that is necessary, but we haven't had the discussion as to where exactly it will be sourced from.
Is there a timeline for the JPS to raise this amount?
I can't speak to that, really.
As in permitted or not having the information?
I don't have the information.
All right. So that 23 billion that they would need to raise, will that delay at any moment the reconstruction time period?
Definitely, it would.
And therefore, does the OUR have a role in ensuring that that is fast-tracked in any way? Are they giving them a deadline?
I think the director wants to
Okay,
take that
Chair.
one from you.
So a couple of things. One is that, remember I made the point earlier that there is the question of what is the engineering estimate of damage
The engineering.
and estimate of damage and what the cost of recovery is. There has been, JPS has imputed that some of this 360, 390 will involve hardening of the grid. The same thing happened with Beryl. They did some hardening. And in fact, I think there are a couple of areas that help much better this time around because of that hardening. So we expect that to take place. On the question of funding the recovery, clearly there's always a mix of approaches. You'd expect that as the company continue to recover and supply electricity, that it will have better cash flows as well. So I'd expect that it will be able to take care of some of the cost of repairs. I would expect that in the ongoing discussion with government and whatever schedule has been established, that if there is a continued shortfall, then that will also be the subject of discussion. At this stage, what we have been given is that, look, we do have that by the end of February, we will be able to restore the grid. And the JPS suggested that the 150 million puts them in a position to achieve that target. Now, whether that means that they have identified other sources of funds, or whether there is ongoing engagement with the government. We're not privy to that. But what we're told is that they're in a position to get to full restoration by the end of February, and that this $150 million puts them in that position, have been told.
So do we have any duty though to ask, to probe that and to ensure that they have access to this fund?
No, I don't think that we have a duty to ensure that where the fund is coming from. I think that what we need to know is whether the commitment that they've given is a credible commitment.
Right.
And I think we have accepted that it is a credible commitment.
Despite them having shown the 23 billion and access.
Despite that, because when we started out, obviously all that was available was a $50 million from the EDF.
From the
EDF.
What is the EDF?
The Electricity Disaster Fund. Sorry, member.
Sorry, yes. So the electricity disaster, that's a self-insurance that the OUR maintains.
Right.
That's 50 billion. And what's the source of that?
50 million US.
50 million US.
Yes.
Oh, so 50 million US. 12, 3, that's about 8 billion. All right. What's the source of that 8?
That's payment by customers. It's a charge on customers' bill. So that's all the self-insurance.
In the electricity bill, there is a charge to each customer each month. Is that an equal charge or a percent of your bill?
It's a per kilowatt charge, right?
The average customers pay 20. The average customer who uses 150 kilowatt hour per month pays about $20 Jamaican dollars towards a fund each month.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
It's a self-insurance fund.
On average, each person pay what? $20?
$20. 150 kilowatt
Jamaican dollars
per average kilowatt. Customer consumes per month.
$20 in total per month.
From the bill.
So it is each person does pay $20 per month.
No, it's in proportion to the amount of your bill, but he's just giving you an average for the customer who consumes 150 kilowatt hours per month would pay $20.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you for that, Chairman. So they pay that. If the JPS misses this target of February, is there any cost to that breach? Is there any intervention? Is there any, you call that, punishment for failing to achieve that period? Or is there a gap? Is there also a kind of a additional time, meaning another 2 months to see, or we might find ourselves here 8 months from now?
So as we found during Beryl, if there can be penalty for missing time, but you have to prove that, it was unreasonable. You'd have to go through a legal process to do that. So there is no prescribed penalty as of now. This question is there a breach of a license arrangement? Is this something that can be litigated? So my answer to that is that I can't tell you that there is a defined penalty, because there is not.
All right, final question, Chairman. This self-insurance, is it totally depleted, or are there more funds available?
Right. I'd indicated that we kept back $5 million US for prudential purposes.
5?
Yes, 5
million. Mm-hmm. So do they have access to that, or that will just be maintained to keep it?
He said of the 50, they've given JPS access to 45 already.
Mm-hmm.
They have 5 that they've held back for prudential purposes, which may or
some
may
of these
not.
terms, Chairman, I don't know them.
What, prudential?
And I don't know them.
No, well, just that we don't want to completely deplete the fund. There may be obligations that the fund has that.
So they don't have access to this other 5 then for this period?
As of now, not. They don't.
And you'll prefer to maintain that reality?
That would be our preference.
Okay. So therefore, they can't access any more from that self-insurance, all things held constant.
Well, we can still waive it, but as of now, I've indicated what our preference would be. That we keep some money in the fund, so
Okay.
not to completely deplete it.
Finally, for water commission, the K factor. Every customer pays this K factor,
Yes.
and therefore, is there a national plan for the reduction of water wastage? Because some of us have not seen that
Right.
effort in our spaces.
Actually, yes, the NWC has a proposal and for the island. As it has been rolled out in phases, as I indicated, KCMC, is that? And St. Catherine are currently. Right. So, but there is
You mean,
a
and
national.
Portmore, because I am St. Catherine
All right,
and I
Portmore.
don't. No, but I'm St. Catherine, so I want to be clear that Linstead haven't seen anybody doing no K
They don't
factor.
reach Linz,
Okay.
they don't reach Linstead yet.
Okay, so
So they're going from the most dense, the areas that have the most accounts where they're losing the most water, and from the major systems, and then they're rolling out to this. So they started in the Kingston and St. Andrew metropolitan area, and then they're going to Portmore now.
okay. All right, thank you, Chairman.
All right, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We have to respect the staff and also our team from OUR for postponing their lunch and sitting through a marathon morning session. So we want to thank you for that. And the only consolation is that you don't have to sit through the marathon afternoon session, which we are facing. So thank you very much. And I think we will now break for 1 hour, and we will reconvene at 2:50 to consider the next item. Thank you.
You sure this is okay?
Relationships can get complicated.
You avoided seeing me now for almost a year. But you still take my calls. It simply means you're not over me yet.
Some relationships stay complicated.
Don't take it easy, Danny. I've wasted a lot of my time with you. You know what? Let me just silence this all together.
It's sad, isn't it?
What do you expect from me, Stanley?
Just forgive me.
Crocodile tears? Once a cheater, always a cheater.
When there's trouble in paradise, what do? Watch the story unfold in a brand new season of Mirrors in Paradise. Saturdays at 8 p.m. and Sundays at 6:30 p.m. right here on PBCJ, the People's Station. See your new favorite shows on the Children's Corner. Learn, laugh, play. Weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. and Saturdays from 1:30 to 5 p.m. The Children's Corner, right here on PBCJ.
Do you wish there were a way your community could get funding to improve a school, health center, sports program, and more? There is. It's the Constituency Development Fund. Here are a few things you probably didn't know about the CDF and how you can make it work better for you. The CDF policy promotes citizen participation in community development and the protection of taxpayers' funds. It outlines that MPs are to meet with citizens at least once every 2 years to agree on the projects needed. You know, it used to be once a year? We should really go back to that. Projects developed without community consultation are not to be approved by the bipartisan CDF Parliamentary Committee. There are 26 government agencies that implement projects, usually for a small fee. Funds are provided directly from the Office of the Prime Minister to the implementing agency, not through the Member of Parliament. The CDF unit monitors project costs and implementation. So if you have questions about how the CDF are run in your community, contact them. To ensure no one project or community gets all the funds, there are 6 project categories with spending limits for each. There must be no less than 5 and no more than 20 projects each year. To learn more, visit jampja.org to view your MP's CDF info and tell them how this fund has impacted you. If you don't see your MP's CDF reports, then put them under pressure, man. Call, tweet, email. Ask them when they'll submit it and when is the next CDF meeting. Change is possible. It's already happening. What we need is you. A message from the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, funded by the European Union and the Inter-American Development Bank in partnership with the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica.
As men, told we're strong, resilient, able to handle anything. But what happens when the pressure gets overwhelming? When stress and anxiety start to weigh us down? Mental health is just as vital as physical health. It is okay not to be okay. You don't have to carry it alone. Let's break the silence. Talk openly, support each other, and seek help when we need help. Real strength is knowing when to ask for help. Man up to mental health. Reach out and call the Ministry of Health and Wellness helpline at 888-NEW-LIFE. That's 888-639-5433. You are not alone. Help is available.
Oh, this will be a revelation. Oh, this will be.
See your new favorite shows on the Children's Corner. Learn, laugh, play. weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. and on Saturdays from 1:30 to 5 p.m. The Children's Corner, right here on PBCJ.
Hello! Today we're going to be making breakfast and preparing a lunchbox for school. Let's start with some sugar and salt. And wash it down with a nice big glass of more sugar. And now for the lunchbox. Let's put in saturated fat, more salt, and sugar. Foods high in salt, fats, and sugar increase the risk of hypertension, obesity, heart disease, and type 2 diabetes. Now more than ever, we have the right to know what's in our food. Give us warning labels on the front of our food packages.
People always say government must be held accountable. But it's whose job to keep government accountable? And what that really mean? Well, you see, when ministers and public officials have to provide answers to decisions made, can face consequences for those actions and decisions, that means they're being held accountable. Keeping government accountable is a key responsibility of our elected representatives, and the Parliament provides special tools or mechanisms just for this. As citizens, we need to understand how they work so we can play our part to ensure that the members of Parliament we elect are using the tools and doing their job well. Here are 4 of the primary tools you should understand and talk to your MP about. Tool number 1, Minister Statements. To effectively monitor the government, MPs need to stay informed. Every Tuesday when Parliament sits, different cabinet ministers are scheduled to give an update on decisions they're making on our behalf. These updates are called Statements by Ministers. They cover a wide range of national issues that other MPs, media, and citizens may have questions about and wish to examine further. That brings us to tool number 2. What do you do when you want information? You ask questions, and that's why we have questions. Opposition and government MPs can submit questions to the Prime Minister or Cabinet Ministers for details on, for example, how a contract was awarded or expenditure to purchase tablets for schools. So if you ever have a question for a government minister, try asking through your MP. After all, that's why they're your political representatives. They should represent your questions and concerns to the government. Tool number 3, parliamentary debates. When cabinet ministers present the government's proposals for new policies, laws, and programs, parliamentary debates allow both and government MPs to air concerns, make suggestions, and endorse proposals. If you ever watch those debates, you know they can get a little fiery. But the debate is important, as it informs decisions and continues until a vote is taken on the way forward. Then we have tool number 4, parliamentary committees. The general sittings of Parliament are not always sufficient for detailed examination of government work, so oversight committees are formed using government and opposition members to do just that. Some committees, like the PAC and the PAAC, are in place for an entire parliamentary term. Their job is to monitor the use of public funds to find ways to increase value and efficiency while reducing waste and corruption. Cabinet and state ministers are not appointed to oversight committees since they are a part of the government. Some committees are formed when a need arises. For example, joint select committees are formed to review draft policies or legislation or to probe other matters of serious national importance. Members of these committees are both opposition and government MPs and senators, and these committees will usually invite citizens to share their opinions, concerns, and recommendations. So there you have it, 4 accountability tools of Parliament that are used to make sure government run right. Visit jamja.org to find contact information for your MP. Invite them to meet with the community so they can better represent your issues and concerns in Parliament and keep government accountable. Get involved and let's make Jamaica land we love, Jamaica land we own, and Jamaica land we run well. A message from the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, funded by the European Union and the Inter-American Development Fund in partnership with the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica.
Jamaica Eye will play a part in increasing your public safety.
Jamaica Eye is part of an island-wide network of camera surveillance systems designed to increase the safety of you, our citizens. If you have a camera system outside your home or office facing a public space, log on to jamaicaeye.gov.jm today. Jamaica Eye, we're all connected. The Ministry of National Security, creating a safer and prosperous Jamaica.
The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister. To fight crime and violence in your country, your government has invested over 9.7 billion into national security systems. This includes the construction and renovation of dozens of police stations, the acquisition of critical security equipment such as patrol vessels and police vehicles, the recruitment and training of more police officers, and the build-out of the Jamaica Defence Force. Your government is investing in your safety. We are building Jamaica.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Every year, the Jamaican Parliament approves billions of our taxes to be spent on goods and services provided by the private sector. Everything from pens to power plants, cleaning services to construction are obtained through a process called public procurement. But who funds this process? Citizens do. And we want our taxes to be spent wisely. When we talk about public procurement, there's a critical concept called value for money. We hear it in the Parliament all the time, but what does it really mean? Some think value for money means choosing the cheapest option, but it's more than that. For example, a community needs a new bridge, and the government receives bids from 3 companies. Company A offers to build it for $10 million in 18 months with a 50-year lifespan. Company B wants $12 million to finish in 12 months with a 75-year lifespan. Company C asks for $8 million, needs 24 months with a 25-year lifespan. Company B actually offers the best value for money. To determine that, we look for 4 crucial factors: economy, efficiency, effectiveness, and equity. Let's explore what each means. For economy, we must look beyond upfront price and consider the full lifetime costs to maintain the bridge. Cheaper options could lead to frequent and expensive repairs. We get efficiency if the bridge is built within budget and on time, with no waste of materials. To achieve this, we need the best team, and clear criteria helps the government to pick the best proposal. Effectiveness looks at whether the government achieves its goal. This could require a community needs assessment to ensure the bridge will reduce transport costs and travel time, withstand the annual flooding with little disturbance to plant and animal life. Finally, equity. This is about fairness, satisfying the different needs of the community. The bridge design considers not just cars and pedestrians, but is sensitive to the needs of the elderly, the disabled community, and children. So when we're talking about value for money, don't just ask how much it did cost. Ask, what are we truly getting for our money? The cheapest option today can become the most expensive mistake tomorrow. From now on, let's ask the right questions for Jamaica land we love, Jamaica land we own, and Jamaica land we run well.
Bring back everything! Bask in the awesome Word of God and the life-changing experience of fellowship. Bask in the revival time, 8 a.m. on Sundays, right here on the People's Station.
You sure this is okay?
Relationships can get complicated.
Even before I did see me now for almost a year. But you still take my cars. It simply means you're not over me yet.
Okay.
Some relationships stay complicated.
And don't take it easy, Danny. I've wasted a lot of my time with you. You know what? Let me just silence this all together.
It's done, isn't it?
What do you expect from me, Stanley?
Just forgive me.
Crocodile tears?
Once a cheater, always a cheater.
When there's trouble in paradise, what do you do? Watch the story unfold in a brand new season of Mirrors in Paradise, Saturdays at 8 p.m. and Sundays at 6:30 p.m. right here on PBCJ, the People's Station. See your new favorite shows on the Children's Corner. Learn, laugh, play. Weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. and on Saturdays from 1:30 to 5 p.m. The Children's Corner, right here on PBCJ.
Over the last 2 decades, there has been a significant increase in peak interest where climate change is concerned globally. The interest has intensified twofold within the Caribbean, with local leaders looking for ways to combat this phenomenon. One such avenue is renewable energy.
Location, AC Hotel Kingston, or if you want to call it AC Marriott Hotel Kingston. Event, 8th Caribbean Sustainable Energy Forum. Looking at renewable energy and of course, the mainstay, EVs. Let's check it out.
I think the first thing is really around the cost of doing business, of transporting, of pursuing transportation, to the extent that people can see that it is cheaper, easier, then they will tend to make the change. And then obviously a part of the responsibility of government, one of the responsibilities of government, as well as institutions like Caribbean Development Bank, is to help to build the awareness about how individual actions impact broader goals, such as the climate objective. So a combination of personal benefit and an awareness of the benefits and the impact of action or practices on the broader environment, which will ultimately affect all of us anyway, will help to make persons to make the right decision.
I think one of the great things about electric mobility is that there are a lot of great lessons that are already out there from the world, whether we're talking about Europe, China, Oceania, North America. A lot of problems and like need for regulation and standards have already been solved. Really and truly is for us to understand them first and foremost, and then apply them to our region specifically.
Many stakeholders are now intensifying efforts to maximize this source of energy in various sectors, from agro-processing to manufacturing and many other areas. It's unquestionable that residential homes are the leaders in the acquisition and use of renewable energy. But one major area is that of transportation.
challenge a lot of people have had so far is that electric mobility is so new. There's not a lot of expertise domestically here in the Caribbean. And so, there isn't a guiding set of local knowledge necessarily outside of, a few of us in the industry that have been working both here and abroad that we can bring into it. But, CCRI and CARICOM have put a lot of work and time and effort and energy in creating the regional electric vehicle strategy, the REVs. And that really can form a guiding document to help first identify the different areas where policy and regulation are needed. And then to bring in some of those best practices, not only internationally, but for some of the markets domestically, like Barbados, Jamaica, Bahamas, that have already been successful, and use some of those lessons learned to make the job a lot easier for everybody else who perhaps isn't quite as far along in the journey.
One of the important things is to make sure that as we are implementing projects, as we are trying to make our transition for energy use more sustainable, that women are represented in the sector, and that women who are, a lot of times, the primary users of energy, whether it's cooking, cleaning, whatever it is that's happening in the home, that their interests are represented in any projects that we're doing. So we need women to be a part of the conversation in the planning and the execution of projects, and also we need to represent the needs of women as we are doing the energy transition.
Motor vehicle buyers are now open to the prospect of ditching petrol-run vehicles for solar-powered ones.
So, the cost of electricity in Jamaica really depends on the rate. So let's say you're on a residential rate, on a time of use rate, you'll find that there are better times to plug in your car to buy electricity from JPS than other times. And that's designed to really help the grid be stable. They don't want everybody coming in at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, plugging in all their electric cars, because obviously that's a strain on the grid. So what JPS has introduced are time of use rates in order to shift some of that charging time towards later in the night. The great thing about electric cars and our charging stations is that you can plug in the car physically and set a time and say, I don't want you to start charging until 10 o'clock when power is cheaper. So those technologies are available today, both in the cars and on our charging infrastructure.
With the skepticism of solar-powered energy vehicles diminishing daily, the market has begun to see a great influx of these cars on a global scale. The Caribbean is not to be undone.
So, electric mobility is really only as clean as the grid that you power the vehicles from. But of course, with distributed generation, you can power anything from the sun using solar panels and inverters. So this basically enables us to cut carbon out of the equation completely.
So with more meaningful desire and drive, the Caribbean is fully on board with protecting their environs by going green with solar energy. The sustainability of the Caribbean is far in advance with the shift in mindset to secure a cleaner, safer planet. I am Melvin Pennan. Thanks for watching.
As men, we're told we're strong, resilient, able to handle anything. But what happens when the pressure gets overwhelming? When stress and anxiety start to weigh us down? Mental health is just as vital as physical health. It is okay not to be okay. You don't have to carry it alone. Let's break the silence. Talk openly, support each other, and seek help when we need help. Real strength is knowing when to ask for help. Man up to mental health. Reach out and call the Ministry of Health and Wellness helpline at 888 New Life. That's 888-639-5433. You are not alone. Help is available.
Oh, this will be a revelation.
See your new favorite shows on the Children's Corner. Learn, laugh, play. Weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. and on Saturdays from 1:30 to 5 p.m. The Children's Corner, right here on PBCJ.
Hello! Today we're going to be making breakfast and preparing a lunchbox for school. Let's start with some sugar and salt. And wash it down with a nice big glass of more sugar. And now for the lunchbox. Let's put in saturated fat, more salt, and sugar. Foods high in salt, fats, and sugar increase the risk of hypertension, obesity, heart disease, and type 2 diabetes. Now more than ever, we have the right to know what's in our food. Give us warning labels on the front of our food packages.
People always say government must be held accountable. But it's whose job to keep government accountable? And what that really mean? Well, you see, when ministers and public officials have to provide answers for decisions made and can face consequences for those actions and decisions, that means they're being held accountable. Keeping government accountable is a key responsibility of our elected representatives, and the Parliament provides special tools or mechanisms just for this. As citizens, we need to understand how they work so we can play our part to ensure that the members of Parliament we elect are using the tools and doing their job well. Here are 4 of the primary tools you should understand and talk to your MP about. Tool number 1, Minister Statements. To effectively monitor the government, MPs need to stay informed. Every Tuesday when Parliament sits, different cabinet ministers are scheduled to give an update on decisions they're making on our behalf. These updates are called Statements by Ministers. They cover a wide range of national issues that other MPs, media, and citizens may have questions about and wish to examine further. That brings us to tool number 2. What do you do when you want information? You ask questions, and that's why we have question time. Both opposition and government MPs can submit questions to the Prime Minister or Cabinet Ministers for details on, for example, how a contract was awarded or expenditure to purchase tablets for schools. So if you ever have a question for a government minister, try asking through your MP. After all, that's why they're your political representatives. They should represent your questions and concerns to the government. Tool number 3, Parliamentary Debates. When cabinet ministers present the government's proposals for new policies, laws, and programs, parliamentary debates allow both opposition and government MPs to air concerns, make suggestions, and endorse proposals. If you ever watch those debates, you know they can get a little fiery. But the debate is important, as it informs decisions and continues until a vote is taken on the way forward. Then we have tool number 4, Parliamentary Committees. The general sittings of Parliament are not always sufficient for detailed examination of government work, so oversight committees are formed using government and opposition members to do just that. Some committees, like the PAC and the PAAC, are in place for an entire parliamentary term. Their job is to monitor the use of public funds to find ways to increase value and efficiency while reducing waste and corruption. Cabinet and state ministers are not appointed to oversight committees since they are a part of the government. Some committees are formed when a need arises. For example, joint select committees are formed to review draft policies or legislation or to probe